Hi guys, welcome back. Okay, so at this point, what we've just done is we have input our raw data from our data collection sheets into Excel. Okay, so that is we've input all of the counts for all of our behaviors into Excel. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is create proportions out of these counts. Okay, because what we're interested in when we do this kind of study is we're interested to know the proportion of behaviors observed. Okay, let's focus on a specific behavior. So the proportion of this behavior observed, so S, out of the total number of behavioral observations made. Okay, so just to say that again, what we're interested in here is to know the proportion of a given behavior that was performed out of the total behavioral observations that were made. Okay. Now, in order to do that, we need to do a couple of calculations. Okay. So the first thing we need to do in order to calculate proportions is we need to know what the total number of behavioral observations were. So let's do that first. Let's create another column and call that total count. Okay. And we can just do a simple function in order for Excel to do that for us. So if we press equals and then type in sum, open a bracket, and then highlight all of the cells that we want Excel to sum together for us, and then close a bracket. Okay, so it's summing all the cells in column D for rows 2 to 12. Okay, and then hit enter. And that will give us our total count of behavioral observations. Okay. Now remember, this observation period here was over 30 minutes. Okay, and it was done every 2 intervals, every 2 minutes. That was the interval. Okay. But of course, it's done on a group of animals, so we have lots of observations made at each interval. Hence why we have so many data points here. Okay. Now we want to have that figure in every row. But it's not as simple as just clicking on this cell and dragging that formula down. Because what's going to happen is if we do that, every time it does the calculation, it's going to change the rows. Okay, it's still going to be calculating for 11 rows, but it's going to change the actual row numbers that it's doing that calculation for. We don't want that. Okay, we want it to fix rows 2 to 12. So let's highlight these cells and get rid of them. Okay, and the way that we can do that is if we click on this formula that we made up here, okay, and then go up to the formula bar, okay, before the column identifier, so D, if we put a $sign and then the same after the column identifier, another $sign, and then the same for this one, and then hit enter, these rows for this formula will now be fixed in place, and I can then grab this cell, drag it down, and it will copy that exact formula for every row. Okay, so now what we've got is for each behavior we've got a count, and in this column here we've now got a total number of behavioral observations that were made. Now from this we can then calculate proportion. Okay, and proportion is basically just here, proportion is the count of a given behavior divided by the total number of behavioral observations made. Okay, that'll give us a proportion. So let's make another column and call it prop. Okay, and again, nice simple equation. So we hit equals, we select our count cell, press divided by, and then select our total count cell, and then hit enter. Okay, now in this case, we can actually click on this cell and drag that formula all the way down, okay, and it will give us the correct formula for the correct rows as we go, okay, because we actually want that formula to be performed on said row as it goes. Okay, so now what we end up with is a proportion here of observations made of behavior S out of the total number of observations that were made during that particular study period. Okay, so in the next video, what we'll do is look at how we can extend that database a little bit further.